we thank you, God. And we're praying that you speak into our hearts today in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Anybody shout amen? Amen. God bless you guys. Happy Father's Day. Oh my God. It's Father's Day today, and I'm so happy to be here with you all. We're in a series, in the third episode. We're talking about Made for a Mission. And so we're going to continue with this because I believe that this is the perfect timing to actually talk about the Father's heart. Because the Father's heart is for the lost. Have you ever lost something? And when you lost it, it seemed like you lost your mind trying to find it, right? You just like went crazy. I'm sure you've lost something. And sometimes you just don't know how much you care for something until you lose it. Whether it's something material, whether it's something like a relationship, someone that's significant to you, you just don't know how much you care for something until you lose it. A loved one. When it's gone, you suddenly realize just how much it meant to you. Well, I'm here to tell you that the Father is obsessed with lost people. The Father is obsessed with not only lost people, but lost things. The Bible says in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, it says, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. So what I want to talk about today, is the Father's obsession for the lost. And it really doesn't matter how you get lost. I know church folk, religious folk, sometimes try to roll out that it matters how you got lost. But God doesn't care how you got lost. As a matter of fact, he dedicated a whole chapter in Luke chapter 15 talking about lost things and lost people. And how this story took place, these parables took place, is because these Pharisees or these religious people, they were really upset that Jesus was hanging out with people that were lost. People who were sinners, eating with them. And so Jesus starts telling parables. Now, a parable is a story that drives home a biblical principle or truth. So when you see the word parable, God is saying, I'm about to drive home a truth through this story. So I'm going to tell a story, an illustration to drive home a biblical principle or a truth that I want you to get, I want you to know. So in Luke chapter 15, verse 1 and 2, these tax collectors and these other notorious sinners often would come to hear Jesus preach. And so Jesus would preach to them. It wasn't like he would push them away, but it made the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law like complain. They start complaining about him, that he was associating himself with sinners and people as such. And he even ate with them too. So that really had them frustrated. So what he does, he tells a story, 3 of them. He talks about the lost sheep. He talks about the lost coin. And he talks about the lost son. And so he's driving home this point that many people are lost, and God is obsessed with the lost. And so what happens is we're going to go over these real quick, because the reason why he tells these stories is because they didn't recognize Jesus' mission, and they didn't recognize their own mission either. They didn't even know why they were on earth. And so Jesus desires to reach everyone's heart. So he tells the story about the sheep because he knows there's boys or sons that may grow up to be a shepherd, and he knew that would resonate or that would relate to them. And then he tells about the lost coin, because the lost coin is like symbolic to a ring. And when you get married, in those days, they would put a band with 10 valuable silver coins around their head. The woman, and that was a symbol that they're a wife now. They're wifey material. They're not only material, but they've been taken off the market. They're a wife. So he knew that girls or ladies would be able to relate to that, or it would resonate with them on that. And then he talked about the lost son because he knew that parents were out there and it would resonate with a parent. And so he wanted everyone. Jesus desires to reach everyone's heart. He wants every single person to get it. So he says, I'm going to tell a story about sheep because guys are going to get it. I'm going to tell a story about the coin because girls are going to get it. And I'm going to tell a story about a lost son because parents are going to get it. And so he didn't want anyone to miss it. So let's talk about the lost sheep. The lost sheep, it is very important that you get this. And he starts telling the story in verse 3. He says, so Jesus told them this story. If a man had 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Now remember the context. He's talking to these individuals that are really hating on him because he hangs out with sinners and tax collectors. Remember, he's talking to these religious people that disagree with him hanging out with sinners. And so he says, well, if a man lost one sheep, he said if he had 100 and one gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 in the wilderness and go to search for the one that's lost until he finds it? And he said, and when he found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. And then when he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors and saying, rejoice with me because I found my lost sheep. Amen. Verse 7 says, in the same way, he's making it clear what he's saying to these religious people. In the same way, there's more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Jesus cold, ain't he? Now, Jesus checking them. Jesus checking them and saying, hey, you may have never left the house of God, but you may have grew up in church. He's talking to the religious folk. He says, but guess what? He says, God celebrates over one, just one repenting. He says, one repenting. He said he celebrates. He's excited about that one. And so it's so important for you and I to get this, that Jesus driving home that God's heart is for the lost. God is obsessed with the lost. Now, he don't care how you get lost. Because the sheep, they were lost because of foolishness. Because sheep have a tendency of going astray. That's why they need a shepherd. Often we can always identify others' foolishness, but not our own. And so any sheep that got lost, what the shepherd was responsible for, his responsibility was to go back and get that sheep, or they would charge him for that sheep. It would cost him unless a predator just came and took it. But if the sheep just went astray on the shepherd's watch, his responsibility was to get it. If he didn't get it, he would have to pay for it. So by leaving the 99, what he was saying was he wasn't saying that they weren't important, but what he was saying were the lost is in danger. The lost is in danger, and the 99 was safe. Jesus is revealing the Father's heart. The Father is obsessed with lost things because of his love for people. And no matter what reason behind him being lost. I remember there was a season in my life where, it really mattered how you got lost. I would try, well, you knew better, right? You shouldn't have done that. And I couldn't see that, God doesn't care. That's why he tells this story. God, he doesn't care. He's obsessed with the lost, no matter how you get lost. So the sheep were lost because of foolishness. Well, the second one is the lost coin. The lost coin is a woman. Remember, she's gotten married. And so in verse 8 it says, or take another illustration. A woman has 10 valuable silver coins and loses one. Won't she light up a lamp? Now, the reason why she lights up a lamp and look for it is because in the Middle Eastern days, in those days where in the region where they wrote that, the houses didn't have electricity. they were real dark. They were clay houses, and they would have to light up a lamp in order for them to really see around. So the Bible's saying she would light up a lamp and then start and look in every corner, right? Every corner of the house, and sweep every nook and cranny until she finds it. Verse 9 says, and won't she call in her friends and neighbors and rejoice with her? Like, if she finds it, what she's going to do is get someone to rejoice with her. Why? Because she's excited that she lost it. It would be really, really horrible, and it would be belittling and degrading to run around with 9 coins on her head. And so the sheep was lost because of foolishness, but the coin was lost because of carelessness. So the coin was lost because of carelessness, because this woman that was careless. Now, sometimes people are lost because of carelessness. Sometimes you and I, we may be lost because of foolishness. Other times we may be lost because of carelessness, because we're just being careless. And sometimes you just don't know how much you care for something until you lose it. It doesn't matter what it is, material things, shoes, coats, jewelry, or maybe even a significant other, a person, a family member. These parables, what Jesus is doing is driving home biblical truths. These parables, God is driving home a truth. He's telling these stories so he can create, an avenue for us to be able to see the reality of God's will, God's heart. Jesus is giving us a picture of God's heart. The Father is obsessed with lost things. He's obsessed with lost people because he loves them. And so he closes up this chapter, right? He closes up this chapter. He's talking about the lost son. And so we know the son of being like the prodigal son, right? That's what we know the story about. We call it the prodigal son, but the prodigal son it could easily be called the loving father, the story of the loving father. Because remember, the son had walked away, and we know the story pretty well, right? The son walks up. He tells another story. A certain man had 2 sons. The younger son actually came up to the father. Give me the share that falls on me in verse 11 and 12. Give me my share in inheritance, which he's saying, I wish you were dead right now so I could get all of my inheritance, so I could get what's coming to me. And then the father divided his estate between them. So the father divided between the older son and the younger son. Now, immediately, I'm sure it broke the father's heart. I'm sure that broke the father's heart that his son came and said, I wish you were dead. I don't want you, I want what you can give me. I'm sure the father, it felt like, getting stabbed in his heart. And then if that's not enough, verse 13 says, soon after, he didn't even wait. Soon after, the young son gathered everything together and took a trip to a land far away. So he got way away from everybody. So if it wasn't enough, he got stabbed in his heart. It's like they put salt in the wound when he just gathered everything away and just ran off. And so he runs off with all his inheritance, and there he wasted his wealth. Okay? He said he wasted his wealth. And so when he's saying this, he wasted it through extravagant living. Now, no one knows what that extravagant living is. But it's extravagant living, prodigal, which means a wasted life. Prodigal, the word means wasted. So in verse 14, it says, when he has used all his resources, meaning he spent all his money, a severe food shortage arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he hired himself out. It's like you put an ad out there on social media or something. We'll work for food. He hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he longed to eat his fill from what the pigs ate. But no one gave him anything. And so when he finally came to his senses, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. When he finally came to his senses, how many of us didn't have those moments before? When we finally come to our senses, he said to himself, So remember, he started talking to himself. He started having self-talk. He began to have this script of what he was going to do. He says, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare. And here I am dying of hunger. Now look, this is where the script, he says, I will go home to my father and say, have you ever went like to work or something, you already prepared what you was going to say, why you were late? Why you didn't come home? And come on, husbands, you came home a little late. You're driving. You already planning in your mind like, this is what I'm going to say. This is what the prodigal son is doing. He's like creating a plan of an attack or a plan to approach the father. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. And I will no longer be worthy of being called your son. Please take me in as a hired servant. So he returned home to his father. And while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son. Now that's very important. He ran to his son. In this nation, Israel, the Jews, Hebrews, when you were older, it was a sign of maturity not to move too fast. You didn't run. You didn't move fast for anything. You had sons for that. You had servants. You never would be caught running. If you were caught running, it was a sign of immaturity. It was a sign of like, what is wrong with that guy? But he didn't care what nobody thought about him. That's my son far off that has been lost. And he gets up and he's moved by what? Compassion and love. What an amazing God. He embraced him and kissed him. His son said to him, Father, remember he got that script. I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. Watch this. But his father said to his servant, quick, like he cut him off, like I don't need your script. Sometimes we come to God and we come with a scripted mindset of, I need to do this. God say, I don't care about any of that. I'm moved by love because the Father is obsessed with lost things. He don't care how you got lost. Now remember, the sheep was lost because of foolishness. The coin was lost because of carelessness. Well, the son was lost because of willingness. He was just rebellious. He just wanted to do whatever he wanted to do. But guess what? God was not concerned about that. Oftentimes in life, I've seen us focus more on how we got lost than just running back to the Father. So many times I've seen people just put a big light on what they did wrong instead of understanding God's love for them. Because God, the Father, is obsessed with lost things. He's obsessed with lost people because he loves people. He cares for people. And on Father's Day, I think this is the biggest time to promote the heart of the Father. Father, he has this humongous heart. So the servant, he says, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. Verse 25, this is where the story shifts. Meanwhile, once you see that word, you know it's about to shift. Like we having a good time here. We're excited. The son has come home. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house. Now, I've been to many parties, and I've heard music at parties, but I've never heard dancing. I didn't walk up to many clubs. I promise you, before I got saved, your pastor was a trip, right? I didn't went to many clubs, and I never heard them dancing before I came up in there. This is a heck of a party right here. Look at that. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field working. When he returned home, he heard not only music, but dancing. Wow. This is the type of party that God throws when one sinner repents, when one person comes back home. This is the type of party that God throws when we're lost because of our foolishness, our carelessness, or even our willingness. This is the type of party God throws. Verse 26 says, and he asked, this is the son. The son don't go and ask the father. Look at the mindset. Remember, he has his inheritance too, because remember, he divided it between both of them. And he said to one of the servants, what's going on? What's happening? And look, he's thinking the brother's going to be happy. Verse 26 says, your brother is back, he was told. And your father has killed the fattened calf. The fattened calf. So everybody know about this calf? Could it be that the father had got one cow and fattened him up just in hopes of his lost son coming back? Because it's like everybody know about the fattened calf. Like, who knows this? So he says, like, it's like they just was giving him, they were feeding him too much. Like every other cow got 2 scoops, he got 7 portions. Why? Because my son coming home, and when he come home, we're going to slaughter the fattened calf, and we're going to celebrate. He says, your brother is back, he was told, and your father has killed the fattened calf. We're celebrating because he's safe to return. Like the servant's like, surely you're happy too, right? Watch this, verse 28. I told you that meanwhile, he said, the older brother was angry. He wasn't happy about his brother. And he wouldn't go in. Sounds a little bitter, doesn't he? His father came out and begged him. Look, the father's heart is amazing. The father's heart is for the person that ran outside of the house of God, and his heart is for the people that's inside the house of God. Because that boy never left. The elder brother never left. But let me tell you, he wasn't in better condition. He wasn't in no better condition than his brother. He begged him. Verse 29. But this is what the brother replied. Look how the brother talks. The older brother was angry. Verse 29 says, all these years I've slaved for you. That's a heck of a son, right? And never once refused to do a single thing you told me to. And in all that time, you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. Watch this. I'm telling you that meanwhile mean a lot. Watch verse 30. Get ready for it. Verse 30. Yet, when this son of yours, it's not my brother, when this son of yours came after squandering your money on prostitutes, whoa. Who said anything about prostitutes? Through this whole story, we have not heard the word prostitute, whoremonger, none of that until this guy started talking. Told you that meanwhile I was going to shift some things. This man said, why your son was wasting money on prostitutes. Now I want to know how you know that. If he was dealing with prostitutes, could it be that you may have seen him out there in the streets and you didn't pull him in? Could it be that you were living in the Father's house, but you didn't have the Father's heart? Could it be that you went out there and seen your brother tricking and you didn't do nothing about it? Spending all daddy's money. Spending all of daddy's money on them girls out there. No one said anything about prostitute. I want y'all to make a mental note of this until this guy started talking. Nobody said nothing about prostitute. He's the only one that said anything about the prostitute. Now remember, unlike the shepherd actually went out to go see the sheep. He went to go get the sheep. Remember, he left the 99 to go get the sheep. Unlike the woman had to go turn on the light and sweep around in her house to find the coin. Unlike them, the father didn't go anywhere. The father didn't go out to go get the lost son. You know what brought the lost son back? Memories of how good God was. Memories of how good the father was. He said, man, I know that I would be doing better in my father's house. That's what brings back the person that's lost. Don't matter how you get lost. Remember, it don't matter how you get lost. It don't matter if it's because of foolishness, because of carelessness, or maybe even because of willingness. But the fact of the matter is, the Father is obsessed with lost things. He's obsessed with lost people. But this character in the story that I'd like to highlight, the older brother, this guy heard music and dancing. He asked the servant, which reveals his condition and his relationship with the Father, why not just go in the party? Why he just don't go in the party? And I'm still blown away how he knows that his brother was out there with prostitutes. Had he seen him and just didn't reach out? Was Jesus possibly revealing the heart of the religious folk that you see people out there and you don't ever bring them back into the Father's house? Could it be that this story is God through Jesus telling the Pharisees that you see people lost all the time and you don't do nothing about it? You're more concerned about how they got lost than God's heart. And so here it is. Jesus is showing them they didn't know God's mission. They didn't realize even their own mission. The religious folks were so caught up in how the people had got lost that they weren't even concerned that the Father was seeking to find them. They weren't even concerned with God seeking to find them. We should all be on a mission. Every last one of us. We should be under submission. Because the Father is obsessed with lost things, with lost people. So we should be as well. The Father wants us to know that we are made for a mission. We're made to be on mission. We got to make a highlight and a note that it's possible to be living in the Father's house and not have the Father's heart. It's possible. And so for you and I, we need to learn how to come under submission. And what the word submission derives from two words: submarine and mission. See, a submarine travels under the water. So as the submarine travels under the water, it means it's under, and it's on a journey. Under, sub, mean under. Mission. Submission means we're under God's mission. We're under God. We're under God's mission. We're supposed to be under the Father's mission. That's why Jesus said, I didn't come here to do my will. I came here to do my Father's will. I'm not here. I'm not created to do my own thing. And sometimes we get caught up in our own thing. We forget about God's thing. And it's so important for you and I to realize that God made us for a mission, for his mission, for his purposes, for his plan, for his calling, for his will. God has a mission for your life. And it's to be pursuing the lost. It tells us clearly that Jesus came here to seek and to save that which was lost. See, they didn't recognize Jesus' mission. They didn't recognize their mission. And the question I have for you today is, do you recognize your mission? Do you know why you're created? As I close this up, I want you to really get this. Do you know why God created you? There was a season, there was a time where I didn't know why God created me. I was creating my own mission. Every day, people would ask me, I'm on a mission. I was on a mission to get high. I was on a mission to, I was on a mission to go have sex. I was on a mission to do my own thing. I was just on a mission. I was trying to pursue my own will. I'm on a mission to get money. It was all about me. And what's so crazy is you and I got to watch out, because it don't have to be drugs or gangs or not even anything bad, but you can be on a full-blown mission and it's all centered around you. And so you and I, what we want to do is we want to become people that are under God's mission, submission. We want to come under the Father's mission. We want to come under the Father's mission. And how do we do that? What we do is we focus on the things that God focuses on. What does God focus on? The lost. God focuses on the lost, those who are lost. So many times in life, we can get distracted. The opposite of being distracted is paying attention. And every time I hear that word pay attention, the reason why they say pay is because it costs you something. Like when I'm talking to someone, I swear I can be thinking of 9,000 things while they're talking. I gotta really focus to get that out the way to pay. It costs me all the things I'm thinking, all the things I'm feeling, everything that's going on with me to pay attention. Don't leave me out there by myself. You know good and well that when people talking to you, you have about 9 million things going on. Ooh, I wonder what I'm gonna eat. Ooh, I wonder what I'm gonna wear tomorrow. Ooh, I wonder what. Ooh, that's a nice blouse. Oh, wow, I wonder where she got her hair done. Ooh, them eyebrows look good. Ooh, I wonder where she got them shoes at. I'm telling you, every time somebody's talking to you, you gotta like pay attention. Yeah, come on now, be real. And so when God's saying pay attention to the will of God, the call of God, the plan of God on your life, it costs you something. And when we hear stuff like that in church, we like cringe a little bit, right? Like it's something bad. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Come on, say it together with me. It's not a bad. I'm telling you, you will be rewarded entirely more. And it was this guy, Peter. I like Peter because Peter is my style. He's loudmouth, just say whatever's on his mind. Hey, but Peter went to heaven, and Peter established the will of God here on earth, established the church. He was a leader. But, you know, he reminded me of me, though. I'm going to be honest. I remind myself of Peter. Because Peter was talking to Jesus one time after Jesus told this crazy story. Jesus told a story about like how difficult it is for a rich person to get to heaven. And then Peter comes over and said, well, hold on, man. We done gave up everything to follow you. We've given up everything. And Jesus came back and says, man, there is no one that's given a father or a mother or a sister or a brother or a house. He says, for my name's sake, and won't receive 100 times, 100-fold in this lifetime and eternal life. And so sometimes I think we focus so much in the kingdom of God. This is the problem, and I'm closing up with this, but we focus on what it costs so much. Only in the kingdom of God we do that, though. If we want a pair of shoes, it don't matter. If we want a steak, it don't matter. If we want something for us, it don't matter how much it costs. But it's something about when it starts costing in the kingdom of God. Come on now, y'all. Don't leave me out there now. When it starts costing, we start adding stuff up, carrying a zero, divide, carry the one. We start doing all this calculus when it comes to costing in the kingdom of God. But God himself, through the person of Jesus Christ, said there's no one that's given up these things and will not receive 100-fold in this lifetime. And I'm just crazy enough to believe that Jesus is real. And he tells the truth. And he's not a liar. And so today, as we're challenged to say, you know what? I want to surrender my heart over to your mission. I know I got a mission, but I think your mission is greater. Your mission is greater because your mission is about the world. Your mission is about people all over the world. I want to join hands. I want to partner with you, Jesus, and begin to start doing the Great Commission. He tells us to go to all the world and preach the gospel to everybody. He says, go make disciples of all the nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He says, go. That means get up and go. We got to get off our biscuit and risk it. Today, as I close up, I want to give you this prayer that I believe that hopefully it'll help us take that next step in being used by God to go reach the lost. Everywhere we go, whether we're at the barbershop, the salon, the movie theater, we're in our neighborhood, we're at work, tell someone about Jesus. Pray for someone, lead them to Jesus Christ. So I'm going to pray, and right now there's going to be a prayer of commission. I'm commissioning everybody. You don't have to be clergy. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a reverend. You don't have to be a deacon. You don't have to be a bishop. All you got to do is have the ability to tell someone how good God has been to you. I can't shake it, man. I just can't shake what happened to me. I just have to tell someone. I can't shake what happened to me. I was on a one-way trip to hell or the penitentiary for the rest of my life. And Jesus found me. I can't shake it. Every day I wake up. Every day I remember where He took me from. I remember what God has done in my life. And for each and every last one of us, no matter, you may not have the lifestyle I had, but no matter what, you shouldn't be able to shake it either, because it's a powerful thing that God has done in our lives. It's a powerful thing. You couldn't do it yourself. You couldn't do it yourself. That's why it took Jesus to do it for you.